Woo! Woo-woo! Shannon, you went off screen. I don't know if you did that or if I did that accidentally. But I see you now. Let's see here. Wednesday.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side, yeah.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is already midweek. Wednesday, January 19th, 1 day away from Freeze-Mageddon 2022, as apparently temperatures in Central and South Texas will plummet into the 20s, or at least wind chills certainly in the 20s or below. Apparently the weather will be nice this afternoon across most of Texas, but not so nice at this time tomorrow morning. So much to talk about, including an overnight Woj bomb, including a reported trade by the San Antonio Spurs. Of course, nothing's official till the Spurs say it is, but Woj is the all-knowing, all-wise, all-seeing, all-informed oracle of all that is sooth in the NBA. So when Woj speaks, we listen. We'll get into that. There's Dak Prescott news to be had. We will talk NFL playoffs as God intended. Big night in college basketball. Some big upsets, including some teams that most of our listeners care about. Lots to get into all morning long. Shannon Salty Sweeney. By the way, the name of the show is The Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon, how are you doing this morning?
You know what? I was doing all right. I was actually almost warm until you came in here with that nonsense about it freezing, being extremely cold. Possibly,
That's
I mean,
what
are
they
we
tell
expecting
me.
precipitation? I mean, what's happening? Am I going to have to do the show from home? Because that's not my favorite. I have a nice kit now, but I can't make any promises.
Yeah. Snow in some of our listening areas, snow in the hill country, chance of snow in Austin and San Antonio, slight chance to be accurate, but things go sideways sometimes, so you never know. Let me see what, so yeah, I've got low tomorrow of 28 in San Antonio, lows on Friday and Saturday, 25. Let me pull up Austin. Austin, low 32 tomorrow, lows on Friday, Saturday in Austin, 27. Now, those are the lows. Daytime, not as bad, but not good either. Tomorrow's high in Austin, 46. Low Friday, again, 27, high 48 with sun, partly cloudy. Saturday, low 27, high 54. Sunday, low 37, high 57 in Austin. So get me to the month of March, Shannon, please. And February, we're not even in February yet. It's January 19th. February is where we had the wild snow, ice, power outage storm a year ago. And typically when it snows in this area, that happens in February. So we got to somehow find our way out of February.
Are we going to have high winds this weekend like we did last weekend? Because I can almost handle it without the high winds. But the winds just
True.
add a really difficult wind chill, like we saw in that Bills game over the weekend, and like we might see this weekend when the Packers play.
Yes. And they're saying that Packer game going to be very, very cold, involving the San Francisco 49ers. 49er fans, we had a few of them in here yesterday on the live video feed. They're quite cocky, and they're quite misinformed as well. Some dude was in here going, yeah, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, they're cleared to play. I don't think so.
Didn't play yesterday.
So no, they're not cleared to play. But yeah, misinformation is fine. It's okay. Lots to cover on this Wednesday morning. Shannon, we've got more Dak Prescott. We will get to that. Last night in college basketball, lots going on, including the number 1 Baylor Bears. And apparently they made history, not the kind of history you want to make. They were number 1 coming out of the weekend. And they now have their second home loss in a week. So apparently no other number 1 team in the country has lost 2 in a row at home as Baylor. And I guess those are their only 2 losses. I guess they're 15-2 now. Now they're 3-2 in the Big 12. That's not exactly a gaudy record in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
But and as I say that, and before we get to cocky and happy and giddy, I know a lot of us are Texas Longhorn fans, and apparently last night not so good for the Texas Longhorns either.
No, it was not a great showing after the loss over the weekend to Iowa State. Texas was ranked 21 at the time, Iowa State 15. They lost that one, I believe, by about 9 points. They come back home. They have yet to lose on their home court this year until Kansas State came to town, a team that they had already played earlier in the year, earlier in the year during a tournament. Texas got a win there at the time. Kansas State was dealing with some COVID and health issues, and so they were not at full strength. Texas won that one pretty handedly. I think they came in with that same mindset, not really realizing that Kansas State back to full strength. This is Big 12 basketball, and as you just described with Baylor, Big 12 basketball, what makes it so fun is that they love to beat up on each other. It doesn't matter if you're ranked or unranked, like in the case of Texas and Kansas State last night. I think Texas will now fall out of the top 25 after this most recent loss. They're now 3-3 in Big 12 play. Also losing to, as I said, Iowa State and as well as Oklahoma State. They have yet to play the Texas Techs. They have yet to play the Baylor Bears. It's going to be interesting, but that's why we love the college tournament, right? Because all of that kind of goes away as long as you play well enough to get in. It's okay, but Texas is still, even under Chris Beard, they're not winning the games that they're supposed to win, and then even games they do win, they're not pretty, and they need to start winning games that maybe they have a little bit of an outside chance of winning, like an Iowa State. Hopefully, I know the big game on everyone's calendar, I believe it's February 2nd, when Texas Tech and Texas will meet up for the first time since the Chris Beard move. But the way they're playing right now, I have no hope for Texas in that matchup. I'll take Texas Tech on that one any day.
Now, I just gave some inaccurate information. Well, partially accurate information. Baylor did lose 2 games in a week. I had a Baylor headline in front of me. I went to a college basketball site, and the first headline that hit me said, "Number 1 Baylor Bears make men's college basketball history with the second home loss in a week." That was the loss to Oklahoma State a couple of days ago. They had previously lost to Texas Tech, as you cite Texas Tech. To be accurate, last night Baylor did win, so they did have those 2 losses. Last night Baylor beat West Virginia, so garbage in, garbage out. I was reading some garbage that was not accurate. So going into last night's game, to be accurate now, took me 6:18 to get to some accuracy on my end. Number 5 Baylor did win at West Virginia yesterday, 77-68. They did, though, lose, and that's what dropped them from number 1 to number 5. They lost those 2 games in a row. Not just to Texas Tech, who you cite, but since we mentioned Oklahoma State, Shannon, let's welcome him in, the pride of Oklahoma State University and personal cabana boy to Mike Gundy's wife. That, once again, is Jeremy KOLAK. Jeremy, my bad for somewhat misconstruing Baylor, but kudos to your Oklahoma State Cowboys for knocking off the Baptists a few days ago.
Yeah, that is 2 years in a row that we have defeated Baylor on the hardwood, although they've had some success. And I just wanted to good morning to y'all as well. But
Good morning.
I just wanted to recap. So did we mentioned that Baylor lost to Oklahoma State, and then we also mentioned that Texas lost to Oklahoma State as well. Correct?
Ooh.
We did, sir.
I'm just
Yes, thank
Getting a
you.
little okay.
Okay. All right. I was
Nice.
just making sure I understood the segment correctly.
And again, and I saw our friends, and they join us a lot on the live video feed. Wes Perkins, a Texas Tech grad, Clint Proctor, a Texas Tech grad, and to underscore in the Big 12 last night in Lubbock, number 18 Texas Tech beating number 15 Iowa State 72-60. Shannon, Texas Tech just keeps on knocking off Texas, knocking off Baylor, knocking off Iowa State.
Yeah.
They keep knocking off ranked Big 12 opponents.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned, now with Texas Tech not long from that game against Texas, my
Yes.
goodness, we got to start keeping an eye on the Red Raiders.
Yeah, Texas Tech, that game, thanks to Wes Perkins for the assist. February 1st, it's a Tuesday matchup. But also, we did have one of our good buddies, Clint Proctor. He came after us pretty early this morning about the most recent Texas Tech win and the trends of Texas Tech basketball versus Texas. Y'all also did lose to Kansas State. So, I mean, just again, it's the Big 12. Everyone beats up on everybody. I think you only get bragging rights when you beat the team that you're trying to brag against, right? I don't need you saying, well,
Yes.
A and B, and somehow that translates to C. No, thank you. Let's take this matchup one-on-one. But that being said, Jeremy, Mr. Oklahoma State, you in Texas, Oklahoma State and Texas this weekend, Saturday, January 22nd. You still feeling confident about your squad?
Optimistic, maybe not confident. We got a weird team this year, and then obviously we have the postseason ban, and Texas has. I mean, Texas weren't they missing a key player when they came to Stillwater? I mean, they were. Everybody's missing players nowadays, but your point about I would tell people this every year. The Big 12 beats up on each other every year in men's basketball, and I'll go to the grave fighting anyone that it's the best conference in men's basketball, at least currently. I think it has dethroned the ACC, in my opinion. But, it could be argued for the Big Ten as well or whatever. But every year, these teams just beat up on each. I mean, every year, you don't know. It's like, it seems like a lot of times we have a different regular season champion from the tournament champion, just because, I mean, there's so much talent in these teams. Just, you have no idea who's going to win every night. So, no, I'm not feeling confident going into Austin because this conference is just so talented. And obviously, Chris Beard has a really talented team with all those transfers and just a collection of talent.
Now, refresh my memory, because you said, and I remember it, but I'm not remembering the specific. You said, obviously, Oklahoma State has a postseason ban.
Mhm.
Why are they banned from postseason again?
Oh, God. It's a whole lot of politics with the NCAA. There was a coach like maybe like 6 or 7 years ago there was an assistant coach under Brad Underwood, who's at Illinois right now.
Okay.
Conveniently.
And it's
avoiding
always
all
an
of it.
assistant coach, because we learned from Richard Nixon, deniability. If you're going to have some underlings commit crimes, you create a buffer so that the underlings take the fall. And that's standard in all of college athletics and in politics. But anyway, fill it in.
Yeah, the coach is not the head. It was under a head coach that's not even there anymore. He's at Illinois.
He's probably a criminal.
Yeah,
a college basketball criminal.
Yeah, the assistant was paying a player a couple $1,000s under the table, and then he got caught up in that. If you can remember, a couple years ago, there was a big FBI probe. Right.
That's right. Yeah,
well, he was a part of that.
Yeah, they nailed some USC coaches on that as well.
Well, isn't it interesting that Oklahoma State is the only team with a postseason ban? And even now we're in the, there's this big thing. It's a big fight in the OSU community against the NCAA, because what OSU did was self-report. They communicated with the NCAA when OSU realized there was a problem, and they still got hit with a postseason ban. When there's other schools that now what they do is they don't self-report. You're supposed to lawyer up, and they don't get hit with that. I don't mean to go on and on, but it's
it's a great point.
where OSU people do not like the NCAA right now, and it's also seen because this was the NCAA took over 2 years to make its ruling on this. And so what everybody believes is they waited last year so they could get Cade Cunningham in the tournament for obviously to get eyeballs and money and whatnot, number one pick. And then as soon as Cade Cunningham goes to the league, bam, hit him with the postseason ban, which is what happened, which is unfortunate because all the players now and all the coaches now were obvious. I mean, the players now on the team were in 8th grade when it happened.
And ironically, now if it was about paying a player, now with NIL, if you wanted to pay that player, you just go line up a booster. Even if that booster doesn't have the money, you could certainly line up a deal and go, hey, can you put your name on this? We got some money for this player, and say you're, having him promote your car wash. So, I almost wonder, Shannon, situations like this where there are bans in place, and I don't know how many there are. It might not be a significant number, but it's significant to Oklahoma State. If they've got a ban in place for rules violations involving paying players under the table, now that we got NIL, should maybe that be rescinded? I know you're big on rules. What do you think?
I mean, yes, I am big on rules. A normal person, right, who has morals and such and does follow, would look at that and say, well, this is no longer in place. Let's go ahead and just, get rid of it. But it's the NCAA, and they love holding things over people, and they're okay with being the bad guy because they're the bad guy in a lot of situations. Now, since we are talking basketball, I do want to mention this real quick because obviously we're very big on wins and losses. But the biggest story last night to come out of that Texas game, out of the Irwin Center, was a football story. And that is that Gary Patterson was spotted in a suite with athletic director Chris Del Conte. Not only was he there, but he was sporting a Longhorns sweater, a white one with a lovely burnt orange Longhorn logo on it. News now, he has been officially hired by Texas. He was there to pick up his key card. He will be an assistant to special projects assigned by the head football coach. So he will be part of this football program and part of the university moving forward. But it was interesting because I think I saw something that did he go to K-State? So he's sitting there with the ex-TCU athletic director, now Texas athletic director, watching his former college that he attended play Texas while wearing a Texas shirt. I mean, it's all kinds of crazy. I never thought I'd see the day Coach Gary Patterson wearing anything burnt orange, much less working for the university. But here we are.
That is real. Yep, he did go to Kansas State. I just pulled that up. So my goodness, yeah, he played there before Kansas State. He went to Dodge City Community College. But he was at Kansas State 1980 and 1981. That is weird. That's like Shannon, getting a gig at name the school. And I guess same conference. So you get a gig at, and we'll take you out of the state. You get a gig at Kansas State, and Kansas State is playing the Texas Longhorns, and then because you have that gig when they're playing the Longhorns, you're wearing Kansas State gear. Yeah. You would think of any time he's going to wear his Longhorn gear, especially for the first time in public. Yeah. Against his alma mater. That is weird. Yeah. That's weird.
I don't know that. Obviously, coaches wearing different outfits and whatever happens quite a bit, as well as players when you get to the next level. But it just feels so soon. It still feels so sudden that he goes from a head coach of a rival school within the state and is now going to be an assistant of sorts on the 40 acres. It's weird. But welcome, Gary. Welcome. We hope you're listening.
Yeah. And we hope you are. Yeah, that's right. He's in Austin this morning and will be for hopefully an extended period of time with his Texas Longhorns gig. So welcome, Gary. This is the show you listen to in the morning in Austin and across the great state of Texas. Coming up, the Spurs reportedly, and I say this because we're going to have Bill Schoening on the show, and Bill knows, and Bill works for the Spurs organization. It's not Spurs official until the Spurs press release, comes down. but it is Woj official, which is pretty damn official, reporting a Spurs trade overnight. We will walk you through that trade. Our high five play of the day is coming. It's Cowboys related, and just so much ground to cover. NFL playoffs now, what, 3 days away? Oh, my God. College hoops, NBA, Spurs, Cowboys, lots to cover. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, on a Spurs game day, game night. Spurs in action tonight at the AT&T Center against Oklahoma City. So we will talk with Bill at 8:05. Jeremy KOLAK making the show go. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out on the Chris Duel Show. Got to remember to turn my mic on during those breaks. Taro Kotani, welcome in, says thank you to Bryn Forbes. Gabe Quintanilla, the Hammer. Gabe, welcome. Robert Armstrong says give Gary Patterson a year. If that terrible UT defense does not improve, Coach Pete K will be gone and Patterson will be the next DC. That could be the trajectory. I mean, Patterson's got a pretty big name, clearly. And you got to believe he's doing what Sark and Bill O'Brien did at Alabama, kind of trying to rehabilitate their brand. All right. You know what time it is. Frank Sosa, I'm totally with you. I think Dan Quinn should be the head coach of the Cowboys. I absolutely agree. It's not looking good at the moment, but we can hope that Jerry Jones, perhaps influenced by public opinion, perhaps influenced by knowledgeable football people like Troy Aikman, maybe. I don't know that Troy has taken a position, but hopefully somebody talks some sense. I heard Colin Cowherd yesterday calling for the Mike McCarthy firing, saying I'm not a fire the coach guy, but my God, something needs to happen in Dallas. I'll be back in a sec. All right. Yeah, and Travis, as you know, I know you're talking about Dak here. Well, okay, let me first start with Wes. And Wes, I talked about this yesterday. You know, Mike McCarthy, when he first came in, said that year he had off studying game film. And at his press conference, he joked that he told Jerry Jones that he analyzed every Cowboys play from the previous season, all 16 games. And he said, then he goes, I didn't really do that. I just wanted to tell Jerry what he wanted to hear. Okay. Are you joking? I don't think so. Many a truth is told in jest. I don't think he was joking. I think he's a weasel and overrated from the get-go. I agree with you. He's got to go. Colin Cowherd yesterday, as I mentioned, talking about it. Travis says McCarthy should probably go, but the bigger issue is signing Dak to $200 million. Dak, with his signing bonus, made $75 million this past season. That's more than he's worth. I agree. They should have offered him half that and invested in the offensive line. Yeah. Jerry falls in love with players. And I know a lot of Cowboy fans fell in love with Dak and are still in love with. And I love Dak, as a guy. But he's not even Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow's possibly moving into the top 5 of quarterbacks. Joe Garcia, history repeating itself in this Dak era. Huge contracts are going to result in losing key places. And speaking of huge contracts killing us, Ezekiel Elliott, much like the Romo era after losing to the Giants. Good point, Joe Garcia. Yeah, I tend to agree with Luisa. It's a good point on Texas Longhorn basketball. Texas only has 4 players from last year. The rest are new. So Chris Beard is still trying to figure out the lineup. He'll turn it around, hook him. I agree with that. Marcus Valdespino says, looks like the Spurs got taller and more athletic. Yeah, we will get into that trade. And we will learn more about Mr. Juancho Hernan Gomez. Denver's, and he's with Boston. Let me pull up his info. He is 26. He's from Madrid, Spain. He was a 15 overall pick in 2016. Here we go.
We're back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
No dark sarcasm in the classroom.
No dark sarcasm in the classroom. Teachers, leave them kids alone.
Teacher, leave them kids alone.
Pink Floyd, classic. Another brick in the wall. Jeremy KOLAK, the pride of Oklahoma State University, continuing to dazzle us all with his music prowess. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. We got lots and lots and lots to cover. Before we get into the high five play of the day, I want to mention this. We'll break it down a little more, or a lot more, a little later. And Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs. But I can already tell you, I know Bill, and Bill knows the Spurs, and Bill is employed by the Spurs. since the Spurs, to my knowledge, have not yet confirmed with a press release and made it Spurs official, this Woj bomb, Bill Schoening is not going to have a lot to specifically comment on because this is the way the Spurs do business, and I get it. But we had a Woj bomb overnight. Adrian Wojnarowski, the Oracle, the all-seeing, all-knowing soothsayer, the man who knows tomorrow in the NBA, reported last night at 11:15 p.m. that the Denver Nuggets acquired San Antonio Spurs guard Bryn Forbes in a three-way deal with the Boston Celtics. The Nuggets are sending Bol, son of Manute Bol, I do believe, and PJ Dozier to the Celtics. The Spurs acquire Boston forward Juancho Hernangomez and Denver's 2028 second-round pick. This is 2022. Yeah, we'll take your second-round pick in 6 years. Pop will be 79, by the way, then. By the way, quick background, and we'll get more into it a little bit later. Juancho Hernangomez from Madrid, Spain. He's 26. He was the number 15 overall pick in the 2016 NBA draft by the Denver Nuggets. He's played for the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, and the Celtics. Obviously not a household name, but the Spurs do things that the Spurs do, and the Spurs know better than we do. But what I do know is it is time for the High Five Play of the Day. High Five Play of the Day, appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 locations in the Austin area. I'm trying to trade a Las Palapas to Austin to bring a High Five down to San Antonio. But for now, there's 2 in the Austin area. Everything you're looking for is at a High Five. Big screen TVs so you can watch your sports, whatever you want. It's there. It's going on. Great food, great drinks, food specials, drink specials, great games you can play. Bowling on 2 levels, 2 floors. Laser tag, axe throwing, zombie dodgeball, and so much more. Kind of a top golf thing going on there as well. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, who is most deserving of a high five this morning?
Well, before we get to the main event, I want to give a quick shout out to Jeremy, because you just mentioned his great music selection. I don't know if you noticed, last segment we ended with just a few minutes left talking about Gary Patterson and his time on the 40 acres that has begun officially now that he's been spotted at Club Irwin. The song, the outro, was Take a Step Back by the one and only Gary Patterson. So fantastic.
Whoa.
And topical and quick producing, Jeremy. That's the kind of stuff we like to see at 6 a.m. in the morning on a Wednesday. So thank you so much for that.
Does that mean Jeremy gets the high five?
You know what?
I didn't have that song prepared before. Maybe I just like that song a lot.
It's not that bad of a song. He's not that bad of a singer. You know what, Chris? I have 2 hands, so I can give one high five to Chris, and then to Jeremy, and then the other can go to the guy that we had prepped for earlier today.
Yes.
We are going to go back and listen to what he had to say, but before we get into what we're going to talk about now. But this guy, he's my favorite quarterback. He's your favorite quarterback. He's America's favorite quarterback, and that, of course, is Dak Prescott. He made some headlines following some post-game comments. He was asked about the trash-throwing fans. He started his answer not realizing that the fans were throwing trash at the refs. He thought they were throwing trash at the players, so he was defending the players and kind of going against the fans. And then a reporter quickly corrected him and said they were throwing the trash at refs, to which Dak made a comment that I still feel like was in jest, but it has now led to an apology. So let's listen to that presser question and answer, and we'll get to Dak's apology here.
No, I didn't see that. It's sad. I mean, you're talking about a team, you're talking about men that come out each and every day of their lives and give everything to the sport, give everything to this game of football. Nobody wants to succeed more than we want to succeed. I understand fans and the word fan for fanatic. I get that. But to know everything that we put into this day in and day out, try our hardest. Nobody comes in the game wanting or expecting to lose. And for people to react that way when you're supposed to be a supporter, and be with us through thick and thin. That's tough.
Aiming at the referees.
Yeah, they were referees. Credit to them then.
That's what
Credit to them.
Chris, when we talked about this yesterday, you asked me the question of should Dak come out and say something? You know, this is kind of a clickbait thing right now. With all that's going on with the Dallas Cowboys, I thought no. I thought just let it wash under the rug. But Dak, being the bigger man he is and being the kind of guy he is, has apologized, and he didn't even use a notes app. He just used regular old Twitter. He tweeted a couple of times in order to get all of the words out because, of course, Twitter character limits, which is why those notes app apologies are so popular. But he did so, and I'll read it for you now. I deeply regret the comments I made regarding the officials after the game on Sunday. I was caught up in the emotion of a disappointing loss, and my words were uncalled for and unfair. I hold the NFL officials in the highest regard and have always respected their professionalism and the difficulty of their jobs. The safety of everyone who attends a game or participates on the field of a sporting event is a very serious matter. That was a mistake on my behalf, and I am sorry. Now, some other information that's come to light since those comments were made was that NBA refs weren't so happy with Dak Prescott and his comments. In fact, they said the NBRA condemns the comments made by Dak Prescott condoning violence against game officials. As an NFL leader, he should know better. We encourage the NFL to take action to discourage this deplorable behavior in the future. I'm not saying that Dak came out with that apology after the NBA refs, who no one loves, came after him. I personally think that Dak realized that he is still playing in the National Football League, will have these refs probably at some point in the future, and should probably not be on their bad side when that time comes. And so an apology, I guess it was warranted. I give a high five to Dak because obviously it instead of getting rid of the story, it kind of propels it into the next level. It gives people more things to talk about. More people will probably come after him, even though he's apologized, because that's what we love to do, right? Hey, you need to apologize to us. Okay, here's my apology. No, not like that. Don't do it like that. That's not the way we wanted it. But nonetheless, Dak Prescott, he took to Twitter, he apologized, and for being the better man, we give him a high five.
Totally agree with the high five, Shannon, and I totally agree with you. It was in jest, but we live in such a weird society now where a certain segment of the population, and even though that was in jest, the quote can be printed and read and misinterpreted, or the audio could be misinterpreted, and a certain segment of our society could look at that and say, oh, he's condemning or he's advocating we throw things at refs. So Dak did the right thing. It's sad that you can't joke around anymore in our society. I've heard comedians like Bill Maher even say in comedy clubs these days, when, you know, comedy, part of what comedy is supposed to do, stand-up comedy, you pay to go listen. Part of it is to offend you and make you uncomfortable in addition to make you laugh. There are like PC woke crowds now in comedy clubs across the country that will jump all over a comedian if they cross a certain line and joke about things that should not be joked about, that 10 years ago people would have laughed their butts off. So I do agree it was in jest. For you and me, Shannon and Jeremy, as adults and as discerning human beings, we're able to go, that was in jest, and he was frustrated, and, you know, actually that was kind of funny in the moment. But sadly, and for NBA referees to use the term, oh, that was deplorable. Oh, that was deplorable. Shut up, NBA refs. So, yeah, Dak did what he should have done, did what he kind of had to do. And you bring up another huge point. He's got to deal with these NFL refs for the next 10 years of his life at least. So, yeah, good. It's good to stay on their good side.
Agreed. You don't want to actually have fans throw things at them during the game because they're now, you know, holding that against you sometime in the future. You'd much rather them, you know, be a Tom Brady. Go high five the refs. Do all of that. Be their best friend when you're on the field and off it.
And, you know, and again, Brady, there's a lot of method to Brady's madness. And we've seen that so many times before the game. Brady will go out and talk to officials and be their pal and be their friend. And, and it's true. Officials are starstruck too. We've seen players like the guy you talked about earlier in the season who had an interception of Brady's and after the game wanted to go, get the ball autographed by Brady because he intercepted. I mean, officials, to them, Tom Brady and even a Dak Prescott is a big deal. So being nice to them probably either subjectively or even unconsciously to the official probably goes a long way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just a weird situation.
And believe it or not, they are people too. They do have families. They do have lives outside of those jobs. Not everything is computer automated. We might get there, and we're starting to move there in some cases, but they are real people on the field. And whether you were a ref or not during that game, I wouldn't want trash thrown at me ever. No. Well,
and again, as you bring this up, I think we should also underscore this. Refs are people too. There's a lot of refs refereeing high school games and middle school games and YMCA games and Pop Warner games. And A, that's a thankless job. B, it's a labor of love. It's for love of the game. And C, again, just like the people freaking out about Dak Prescott, Shannon, now more than ever, parents flip out about their kids. Parents act out and even get violent at these youth sports games. So not only, I do agree with you, referees are people too, but God bless them and God love them for doing what they do. And in the era of COVID now, I mean, that's even another layer of personal risk they might be putting themselves in. So, yeah, I mean, obviously NFL officials are on the highest level, NBA, whatever, Major League Baseball umpires. But, refs do in college. And as we go down the totem pole to high school and all other youth sports, it's a thankless job. And I do believe it's a labor of love. Yeah. So we love them. We thank them. We couldn't play the games without them. That's right. Did you ever ref growing up? Did you ever have them? I never refed. No. I mean, like, in college intramurals, sometimes they pick you to be the ref, but no, not an official ref in somebody else's games. No. I did like a volunteer one a couple of times, but it was like little 6-year-old basketball. And so they're like, don't call anything. And I'm like, okay, so what am I doing? Because this is a lot of power and you gave me a whistle. What am I actually calling here? So if they were like traveling a bit too much, that was a whistle blow. But everything else was fair game. Yeah, little Billy, that was 12 steps. Okay, traveling is more than 2. That's I gotta call that. There you go. All right. We got lots to talk about. Cowboys, NFL. More people calling for the head of Mike McCarthy. Will Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones reverse their position? We'll go deeper into this Spurs trade overnight that sent Bryn Forbes to the Denver Nuggets. Lots to cover. Jeremy KOLAK making the show go. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. It's the Chris Duel Show. Beth Settle, welcome in. Good morning, Beth. Frank Sosa saying the refs actually called a decent game. Not their fault. Dallas didn't time manage or know the rules. The refs need to touch the ball. Yeah, and 14 penalties on the Cowboys. And not all of those were bad calls by the refs. Leo Zambrano, I have had the privilege of coaching Little League Baseball. Rule number 1, you don't talk back to the umpires. Yeah, and kids need to learn that at an early, especially now when there's no respect for anybody. Kids need to learn that. All right. I imagine this, need more coffee. And my camera's too high. It's like, I gotta look up at it. You don't want that. Lower the camera. So it's more at eye level. I don't know what I was thinking. I'll have to adjust it probably. Yes. All right, that's better. Now it's more at eye level for me. I was like, hey, I'm looking up at the camera. Okay. I have an intense need. Steve Duraco, the original rock, the original Italian stallion, THE rock. THE, of course, stands for the human element. Co-founder of the San Antonio Polar Bear Club. In fact, tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., Steve Duraco is going to swim in the San Antonio River as Freeze-Mageddon 2022 hits. Steve Duraco is available for children's parties, by the way. In the winter, have a little kiddie party. Steve will come and swim in your pool. All you have to do is pay him in beer. All you got to do. He'll show up. Kids love him. Kids love him. And he's a grandfather, so, you know, he's experienced in the whole kid thing. All right, I'm heating my coffee. I'll be right back.
Jackson Hewitt needs you to know 3 things about filing taxes this year. 1. There are thousands of dollars worth of new tax credits on the table. 2. If you have to file for them, make sure you get the right amount. 3. A Jackson Hewitt tax pro will help track down every credit you deserve. Tax credits for being a parent, taking care of a baby, going to school, and so much more. You don't want to miss out on thousands. Jackson Hewitt knows that. Discover thousands of tax credits and get your biggest refund guaranteed. Learn more at jacksonhewitt.com.
Woo! Woo! Gabe the Hammer Quintanilla in here this morning. Joe, that you make a great point. Those are all dudes. And Wade Phillips was a great defensive coordinator. And Mike McCarthy, I mean, credit a little bit of what he did in Green Bay. But yeah, they're all guys that just couldn't really get it. I really think, looking at what Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay have done since Mike McCarthy left, I think that diminishes, or at least tells us that Mike McCarthy was not necessarily the reason for their success. Thank you, Frank Sosa. You may already be out of here, but you have a great day too, sir. That is Amber, a.k.a. Foamfoot420, proud of Dak, saying he's sorry, but he would have been okay if he didn't. Yeah, although, once NBA refs are denouncing you, that could have caught fire, and NFL refs could have followed suit. So he just extinguished this little fire before it grew. Let's see here. Robert Armstrong says, until Jerry Jones decides to relinquish some control and hire a real general manager, never going to happen. Does not really matter who coaches, but this is why some coaches are reluctant to come to Dallas. Almost feels as though Jerry Jones has to settle on who is willing to come to Dallas. Sean Payton is intriguing and has been discussed before. But, Robert, and I heard somebody say this yesterday on national radio about Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn now knows how Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones operate. Sean Payton was in-house under Bill Parcells and knows how Jerry Jones operates. Would Sean Payton come now? I mean, has Jerry Jones maybe even been making overtures to Sean Payton over the last several years, and he ain't coming? Maybe. Gabe Quintanilla says, fire Jerry. Yeah, I got a text, Gabe. I got a text from a friend after the Cowboys loss who said, this is going to keep coming until Cowboys ownership changes. And I texted him back. I said, not in our lifetimes. Because after Jerry, it's going to be Stephen Jones. And Stephen has a 19-year-old son who was a big-time high school quarterback. And this is the richest franchise, as you know. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. In all of sports on the planet Earth. Why would the Jones family ever give up this cash cow? And other than the embarrassment, which I guess they get over and they console themselves with victory, with money, why are they going to change what they're doing? It's making them more money than anybody makes in the world of sports. So it's horribly sad. Yeah, Robert, again, unless the only hope is if Sean Payton was able to get an agreement from Jerry and Stephen Jones, like in writing, here, I'm the GM, I'm coaching GM, here are my responsibilities, here's what I oversee and have autonomy for. For a brief shining moment, Jerry was, when this team was turning around under Bill Parcells. And then Jerry wanted T.O. and Bill didn't like T.O. And then Romo fumbled the snap at Seattle. And for whatever the reason, and I think it's just that Bill couldn't put up with Jerry anymore, Bill Parcells wound up leaving. And that was discipline. That was a very, very good Hall of Fame coach. And, he was the guy who said about Tony Romo, do not anoint him too soon. And people who know about the Cowboys say that situation has been a country club ever since Bill Parcells left. It's, Romo was king. It's like, oh my God, he's Tony Romo. Wow, he's great. Have you seen his stats? Oh my God. And look at that smile. It was a country club. And there was no real accountability. And the apex, when the Eagles beat the Cowboys like 44-6 to close out the regular season and eliminate the Cowboys from the playoffs in a game that the winner would win the NFC East, that's when Tony Romo in the press conference said, if this is the worst thing that ever happens in my life, I've led an okay life. I'm going to be okay. And even Troy Aikman came out and said, whoa, as quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, even if you think that, you don't ever say that. You've got to be about accountability. The buck stops here, and we're going to win no matter what. And Romo in press conferences became very vanilla and very robotic after that moment. So, my God, it's hard being a Cowboys fan, isn't it?
It's the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys the night.
Yeah, Jason, that's an ugly statistic.
Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side, yeah.
Now, Chris Duel.
We break on through to the other side. The Cowboys have yet to break on through to the other side. Jason Paniagua on Facebook Live. Actually, he's on YouTube. He's joining us on YouTube on our live video feed. Reminding us the Dallas Cowboys have 3 total playoff wins in the last 25 years. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon, I'm sure you've seen it. It's going around. It's like in the last 25 years, and it has these lesser quarterbacks in the NFL like Jake Delhomme. It lists like 5 names of rather mediocre quarterbacks and how many playoff victories they have in the last 25 years. And I can go find it. One of them has like 7. One of them has like 5. And at the bottom of the list is the Dallas Cowboys with 3 playoff wins in the last 25 years. And it's embarrassing. And, we were talking about this during the break on the live video feed, Shannon. And, I got a text from a friend after the Cowboys loss who said to me, this is never going to stop until the Cowboys get new ownership. And and I know, Shannon, and I texted him back. I said, not going to happen in your lifetime. When Jerry's gone, it's going to be Stephen Jones. And Stephen Jones has a son who's 19, the kid who was a quarterback, a very good quarterback in the Dallas area. After Stephen, that kid's going to inherit the team. So long after I'm dead, it's going to be. Why would the Jones family, making more money than any other family in sports on the planet Earth now or any time in history, why would they give up this cash cow? They will not. And why would they change the way they're doing business?
Yes.
Because it's making them so much money. They will not. Our only hope, Shannon, is that they get a little embarrassed by all these playoff losses. For the love of God, have you no shame, Jerry and Stephen Jones?
Yeah, you said it exactly what I was thinking of. Until the money starts to not roll in as much. I'm sure it'll always roll in for folks like you and I. Like, I can't even imagine that amount of money. But until that line starts to dip, I don't think we'll see any drastic change as far as how the organization is run. And you say that he needs to be embarrassed. He said he was embarrassed, but I don't think that's enough to do. And I don't know what it is at this point of what, I mean, is it a stretch of not making the playoffs? Because where are we on the line of, would you rather make the playoffs and be one and done or not make the playoffs at all? To me, they're kind of one and the same. I mean, look at what the Raiders did with their GM, right? I mean, they didn't fire him on Black Monday with everybody else. They waited until after they lost their first playoff game and did it then. So I very much agree with you. I don't know what it's going to take. You'd hope that, the next generation of Joneses are seeing things that maybe in the back of their mind, they're like, you know what, I might change this. I might do this a little bit differently. And that they're not just like copy paste versions of Jerry himself. But until, how old is Jerry? I mean, he'll live forever. He's got the money to do it.
I think he's about 78, 79. Yeah.
Yeah. My tombstone's going to read, she never saw the Cowboys win a Super Bowl. That's what it's going to read. She died a Cowboys fan, but she never saw a Super Bowl.
Thank you.
Ugh.
Well, but we know Jerry Jones has a burning desire to win a Super Bowl and try to prove that can do what Jimmy Johnson did. I mean, for a minute he thought he did it with Barry Switzer, but most of us now agree, you didn't really. But God, I just wish that ego, perhaps, or pride, or whatever, just a sense of responsibility. And Jerry was saying all the right things after the game, and one of his big points was, this is not fair to Cowboys fans, and I totally agree that it was not fair to Cowboys fans. But my God, and I'm listening yesterday as well. Colin Cowherd, he was saying emphatically on his show yesterday, which is on our air, saying I'm not a fire the coach guy, but he said, of all the coaching candidates right now for all of these 8 openings in the NFL, the best coaching candidate is Dan Quinn for all of those jobs. And you've got him in the building in Dallas. Nobody was saying that about Mike McCarthy. In fact, Jerry Jones kind of did Mike McCarthy a favor by hiring him in the first place. And I just think, Shannon, we've had 2 years. Wasn't 1 year, and I know the first year you had the Dak injury, but you had an opportunity to still evaluate and see how Mike McCarthy would handle that pressure. And one of the biggest things we've learned in 2 years about Mike McCarthy, not good for time management, lots of problems there. But what we learned on Hard Knocks, we saw Mike McCarthy trying to give the Cowboys some pep talks, trying to motivate them, and it was really kind of lame.
Mojo moments.
And then we saw this season. Exactly. And we saw this season in a year that the expectation was that this team could go deep in the playoffs. And midway through the year, we were talking about, before they lost those 3 out of 4 to the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Raiders, we were talking about, hey, man, number 1 record in the NFC, home field, get that first round bye. You underachieved. You failed. You had a home field game against the Niners. They tried to give you every chance to win it in the fourth quarter. I believe Mike McCarthy has failed the audition. The best coach on not only the Cowboys staff, but I agree with Colin Cowherd, the best coach available right now for all of the head coaching positions in the NFL is in your building, Dan Quinn. You need to make that guy your head coach.
Mike McCarthy to me is more, he's not the guy you want as your head coach. He's the coach that like you go back to like in the off season or when you just want some extra training outside of what's available to you during the season, right? Let's go to the local high school and let's get some work in. He's your buddy. He's your friend. He wants to help you. He really does. He means well, but he's not there and doing what he needs to do in the important moments. And you mentioned time management. I don't know about you, Chris. I think it was first grade when they really nailed in. They had the big subject was learning how to tell time and doing clocks. I don't know where Mike McCarthy went to school. I don't know if he skipped that grade. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he fell asleep. He was eating too many cheeseburgers. But that's something that I feel like if that hasn't clicked for you already in this league, it's not going to. And lo and behold, how do we end our season with a time management, clock management, Mike McCarthy on the sideline, not really looking like anything's working in the noggin there. I don't see it. I agree with you. Dan Quinn, if you can only keep Kellen Moore, Dan Quinn, I think you got to keep Dan Quinn. And I think you got to do it by hiring him as the next head coach. Mike McCarthy, you're right. He was done a favor because even when we were in search of that head coaching, position, I think Sean Payton was a big name, right? People were like, Jerry, you've got all the money in the world. Go get him. And it was kind of a surprise and a bit of a dud when Mike McCarthy was announced as the head coach. And we mention it all the time. He sat there at that press conference and said, I told Jerry I watched all the film. I did everything I could. No, you didn't. And I don't know that you're watching film now because if you did, you would have made some changes, buddy. Hire Quinn.
Yes.
Let's start that hashtag.
Yes. Well, and Shannon, you bring up Sean Payton, and here's one thing to consider. Sean Payton was in-house as a Cowboys assistant under Bill Parcells. Sean Payton knows how Jerry and Stephen Jones operate. You can now say the same thing for Dan Quinn. You've got to wonder if Dan Quinn Dan Quinn now has his choice. Dan, you want to go to Miami? Okay. Dan, you want to go to the New York Giants? Okay. Dan, you want to coach the Denver Broncos? Okay. Dan, you want to be the Houston Texans coach? Dan, you want to have the best quarterback in these available coaching positions? Jacksonville is interested. I wonder, Shannon, Dan Quinn now has corporate knowledge if Jerry Jones even says, and maybe it's even been discussed. And maybe part of the reason why they're sticking with Mike McCarthy is Dan Quinn says, I'm not going to have you Jones family interfering with me being a head coach and winning football games. I've seen how weird it is here. Dan Quinn might not even take the Cowboy job when he can go take any of the other 8 jobs available. So Dan Quinn can now look at if the Cowboys offer it to him, Dan Quinn can look at 9 jobs and say, where do I want to go?
Yep.
Do I want to be with Jerry and Dak and Steven Jones, or do I want to maybe go to Jacksonville with Sunshine and take my chances to win a championship there?
Yeah. We had a caller. He's driving, so he didn't want to be on air. But Fred said this is probably a curse because Jerry Jones is keeping Jimmy out of the Ring of Honor, which is interesting because Jerry did announce that he would add Jimmy Johnson to the Ring of Honor. But I don't know that we have a date yet. I think there's still no date. He just kind of like, yeah, he's going to be there. So that's an interesting take. I like it. It's very Cowboy-esque.
And Shannon, I wasn't thinking specifically about that, but that answers what I was thinking about yesterday. Yesterday, I was thinking, okay, the Cowboys have been cursed ever since Jimmy left. However, they did win that Super Bowl with Barry Switzer. And actually, they won that one 2 years after Jimmy left. So when Jimmy left your first year under Switzer, they went to the NFC Championship game. And then that was the one where there were fumbles and picks in the first quarter. Cowboys fell way behind. They darn near came back. It was 38-28 something final. They made it a game in the fourth quarter. Troy led them back, but they lost. Then the second year after Jimmy left, they go to the Super Bowl thanks to Neil O'Donnell, who threw 2 interceptions to Larry Brown, who became the MVP. The Cowboys won the Super Bowl. So I was saying to myself, all right, it can't be the Jimmy Johnson curse because Jimmy was fired, but maybe that is it. It's the Jimmy Johnson curse because Jerry, you have not recognized the contribution of Jimmy Johnson as the architect of that Super Bowl era of the triplets. So maybe what will remove this curse, Shannon, as Fred, the caller off the air, says, you got to put Jimmy in the Ring of Honor. You got to do it fast to remove this curse.
Well, and while we're talking about it, just not even 2 weeks ago, someone on Twitter asked Jimmy, what happened to the Ring of Honor? Was it just Jerry talking for the cameras? Of course, the announcement was made during the pregame for the Steelers and Cowboys Hall of Fame game, which you were in attendance, Chris. And Jerry was on the panel, and it was on Fox, so Jimmy Johnson was there, and that's when he made the announcement that Jimmy would be added to the Ring of Honor. Well, January 5th, this question was posed on Twitter, and Jimmy Johnson responded saying, haven't heard a word. So we're here speculating when's the date. He doesn't know. Yeah. He hasn't been told. He's probably hasn't had anything said to him since that on-air live moment in which Jerry said he'd be added.
All right. In a moment, Wes Perkins is calling. Wes is a great caller, and he wants to talk about Mike McCarthy. But since we're rolling up to 7:20, we'll go ahead and do this right now. It is our Grand in Your Hand cash contest. I'm doing this so we don't interrupt Wes Perkins. By the way, Gabe Quintanilla says Jerry fired Tom Landry. See, I eliminated that as a jinx as well. If it was the Tom Landry jinx because you fired Tom Landry, kind of like the curse of the Bambino when the Red Sox traded away Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees, you won those 3 Super Bowls after you fired Tom Landry. So it can't be the Tom Landry curse, and it can't be a direct Jimmy Johnson curse for firing him because you won the Barry Switzer Super Bowl with Jimmy Johnson's dudes. It could be the Ring of Honor. That could be it. All right. Wes, we're going to come get your call in a moment. Right now, the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. Here comes a keyword. We'll tell you where to take it to win $1,000 right now. Here it is.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Deposit. That's deposit. Enter it on our station website now.
And I say, and Shannon says, enter it on our station websites, plural. You double your chances to win. Take it to AM 1300 The Zone and ticket760.com. Double your chances to win. All right, let's go to the phone lines. He is a Texas Tech grad and partisan, but right now he wants to talk about the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy. Wes, how you doing this morning, brother?
Well, I've got my coffee in hand, Chris and Shannon, and I'm fired up, though, about the Dallas Cowboys, or the lack thereof. Let me tell you this. This is something that I know the 14-second slide keeps getting all the attention for what it was. But at best, you're going to get one play into the end zone, and the Dallas Cowboys are going to lose that game. Let's talk for a moment about Mike McCarthy being the coach that hired Mike Nolan last year that produced the statistically worst defense in Dallas history. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the 14 penalties that were committed under his tutelage and the most penalized team in the NFL. Those are things that if you are the head coach of a very successful franchise, that doesn't happen. There's no, look, the Cowboys lost that game before they even played it because of the lack of discipline and the lack of direction from this coaching staff, in particular from Mike McCarthy.
Huge point. Shannon, I'll let you react to what Wes just said.
Wes, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about Mike McCarthy not being head coach material, but the buddy coach that you hang out with in the off season. You head to the local high school and you get some work in, you get some reps done. Mike Nolan was Mike McCarthy's friend, and they may still be friends even after the firing. But we've seen it happen time and time again. Coaches get hired and they bring their friends. They want to pull them up. They want to share in the wealth. And that's not always the best strategy when it comes to coaching, and specifically coaching in the National Football League. And Mike McCarthy and whatever goes on in that head of his thought that, no, this time it'll work out. Clearly it didn't. We lost a year because of it. We got Dan Quinn because of it, which would be a blessing if that then turned into Dan Quinn being a head coach for the Dallas Cowboys. But I don't think it's going to end up that way.
Yeah. Hey, Chris and Shannon, I just want to point this out too. And this is something that I know that we all are, we all bleed from our hearts and whatnot, but you got to wonder if the players are starting to wonder. It's starting to get in their mind too. You saw the comments from Amari Cooper about whether he's coming back to the Cowboys. You saw others kind of talking about this. And you guys mentioned earlier this morning about the Zeke contract and what that is. Is it a point now where you start to see the lack of faith in Dak and the players in addition to this McCarthy situation? Because it doesn't seem like they're in any better place than they were, 10 years ago.
Wes, it's a great point you make. I don't think it'll be lack of faith in Dak. I think Dak's a great leader. I do question whether he's a top 5 quarterback. I don't think he is. I think he's a number 9, 10, or 11 quarterback in this league. But I will say this, and Shannon just said, we wasted a year under Mike McCarthy when he hired Mike Nolan and put together that we certainly wasted this year. This team will not have the opportunities next year. It will not be as good of a team next year. You're going to lose Dan Quinn. So, Shannon, God knows if Mike McCarthy is in on the decision who's going to be the new defensive coordinator. The worst you could hire was Mike Nolan. What if we get like 4 steps better than worst? God knows. We're going to lose a lot of free agents. Kellen Moore, we may or may not lose him. And this year, you had statistically the best offense the Cowboys have had in years, and arguably the best offense in the NFL. And you had, shocker, this Dallas Cowboys defense that was a turnover machine. You won the division. You had a home playoff game. You had a pinball scoring offense that could only score 7 points going into the fourth quarter on Sunday. And you had a return to the doomsday defense. Shannon, what are the odds that all those things come back next year? Knowing all we know about football in the National Football League, odds are we're not going to have all of those virtues next year.
I think we'll be lucky if we get half. If we get half back. And then we play with what we got. Because you're right. We're not getting it all. No chance.
Wes, thanks so much for the phone call. you bring up a lot of great points, and Shannon, I can only hope. I mean, a lot of media members, and just yesterday I heard Colin Cowherd saying it, and and he kept underscoring, "I'm not a fire the coach guy, but the best coach available is in your building, and his name is Dan Quinn." I can only hope that not only are national people who Jerry Jones may or may not pay attention to are in Jerry's ear, but I'm hoping guys like Troy Aikman, and there's been rumors out there, and I don't trust Jerry to do this, but there were rumors like a year or two ago that Troy Aikman would be interested if Jerry and Stephen Jones gave him the autonomy, because Troy is always looking for another challenge. Troy has all the money he'll ever need. Troy has established himself as a great football analyst, but you look at what John Elway did running the Denver Broncos as a former Super Bowl champion quarterback of the Broncos. There is word that Troy Aikman, with all of his football IQ, if asked by Jerry Jones to be the GM of the Cowboys, Troy Aikman would do it. I can only hope, Shannon, that Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, maybe even Roger Staubach and others would get into Jerry Jones' ear and say, Jerry, because Shannon, you and I see this. I know Roger sees it. I know Troy sees it. I know Michael Irvin sees it. Somebody's got to get into Jerry's ear and say, hey, man, Dan Quinn. And even if it's not Dan Quinn, you got to get rid of Mike McCarthy. Yep. We're not going to the promised land with Mike McCarthy.
I mean, Troy Aikman, he's there. We hear him call games. You can hear it in his voice. He's been critical of the Cowboys, and he'll continue to be critical. I know it's part of his job now, with being in the broadcast booth, right? He has to call it both ways. But you can tell when he's talking about the Cowboys that there's that inflection of disappointment, or almost like he's like, man, I hope Jerry is listening to this. I know he's sitting in his suite right now, but I hope he's also listening to this, because maybe I can get through to him. We hope it wouldn't end up being a John Elway situation, right? Because that's, I guess I did get that Peyton Super Bowl, but that was kind of a fluke in my opinion.
Yeah, it didn't
with
work out
their current
well.
quarterback situations. But yeah, it'd be better than Jerry Jones himself continuing to carry on the way he has.
We got a lot more coming at you, and the Salty Shakedown, Shannon's midweek Salty Shakedown, is moments away. This week in sports history, the beginning of the Tom Brady, the beginning of his goatness happened on this day in sports history. We'll tell you what that was. Do you remember what it was? It wasn't a Super Bowl. And in sports birthdays, a Dallas Cowboy who is oh so deserving of recognition having a birthday today. We'll talk about all that. Shannon Salty Shakedown. Don't forget, top of the hour, voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, on a Spurs game night. Michael Jackson, the original MJ, before Michael Jordan and before Mac Jones. And what is he, MJ 10, I think? I don't even know, have Mac Jones' number memorized, nor should I. He takes us out here. Salty Shakedown is next. Jeremy KOLAK, the pride of Oklahoma State University, making the show go. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Yeah, Eddie, it's an interesting thought. I don't think Ray Lewis would put up with Jerry Jones, but it's an interesting idea, man. I will give you that. Okay, I need to edit something right now. Let me go ahead and do that. Let's see. There it is. Now, what I need is those. I'm going to start with the first one. All right. Jason, Troy is in his last year of his Fox contract. Amazon is trying to pry him away. Yeah, and and obviously it would be an easier life for Troy Aikman to be a football analyst, not nearly as much work as being a general manager. But yeah, he seems like the kind of guy, he loves the Cowboys. He seems like the kind of guy who would conceivably do that if called upon. And Cherry should call upon him. Yeah, Robert Armstrong, you're probably right. I just keep hoping ego would intervene and the desire to win a darn championship and prove you can do it without either Jimmy or Jimmy's people after all these years. I mean, when did he fire Jimmy? 94? I mean, we're now 28 years removed from that. I'm going to check one thing here. Okay, that is the third one. Let's see this. All right. Now, I'm going to do one more of these things. Yeah, Gabe, I do not understand the last play call either. With 14 seconds, you're at the 41. You've got one or two chances to the end zone. You got two chances if the first one's incomplete in the end zone. If it's picked, obviously you don't. If there's a sack, you can't give up the sack. Obviously you don't. But otherwise, if the first one's incomplete, that'll be about a 7 or an 8 second play. You'll have another shot. So, yeah. And again, I know we're being Monday morning quarterbacks here on a Wednesday morning, but we now know, as they should have known, that was an ill-advised play. Here we come.
Let's get back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
Little Clapton. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney on a Wednesday, January 19th, the eve of Freeze-mageddon 2022. It's going to be nice this afternoon. You're going to be feeling good, going, hey, man, these are mild temperatures for January. I can live with this. Talk to us tomorrow morning when Freeze-mageddon arrives. We'll get into more of that. Shannon's Salty Shakedown is moments away. Top of the hour. You know him. You love him. You can't get enough of him. The voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, on a Spurs game day / game night. Spurs hosting the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight at the AT&T Center. We'll talk Spurs and more with Bill Schoening coming up. And, of course, your chance to win another $1,000. The Grand in Your Hand cash contest. Somebody wins $1,000 each and every hour throughout the day from 7:20 in the morning till 6:20 in the evening. Your next chance coming up at 8:20. We'll let you know about all of that. But first, before Shannon's Salty Shakedown, how about some sports birthdays and this day in sports history? On this day in 1934, Major League Baseball Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis denies shoeless Joe Jackson's appeal for reinstatement into baseball. Jackson was banned after the 1919 Black Sox World Series scandal. Two things. Number one, Kennesaw Mountain Landis, a dirtbag, because history and evidence shows that Joe Jackson did not participate in any throwing of that World Series. Secondly, and worse, Kennesaw Mountain Landis goes down in history as a racist scumbag. He was part of the cabal in Major League Baseball to keep players of color out of the game of baseball. We remember you for being a racist scumbag, Kennesaw Mountain Landis. On this day in 1974, this was a big deal. I remember this. Get off my lawn. Notre Dame, college basketball. Notre Dame beat UCLA 71-70 in South Bend, Indiana at Notre Dame to end the Bruins' NCAA record 88-game win streak. Do you think about this now? It's very rare for an NCAA basketball team to go undefeated through the regular season and into the tournament under John Wooden. And oh, by the way, my favorite sports color guy and a national global treasure, Bill Walton, was the center for UCLA during this era. 88 in a row. My God, UCLA was just unbeatable. All right. This day in 2002, the beginning of Tom Brady's GOATness began. It was the Tuck Rule game. It was New England Patriots versus Oakland Raiders. Brady fumbles the ball in the snow. Raiders get the ball. Raiders can win this game. No. The refs called it the Tuck Rule. Still very controversial. New England goes on to win the game. It was 13-10 Raiders at the time. New England goes down and wins at 16-13 in overtime. Brady and the Patriots go to the Super Bowl and win it. How things may have changed if that call went the other way. And finally, on this day in 2013, Austin resident Lance Armstrong admits to doping in all 7 of his Tour de France victories. They are stripped. Way to go, Lance. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? You can argue on whether or not it's a sport, and I would agree maybe it's not a sport. Born on this day in 1913, billiards champion, Minnesota Fats. That's just one of the greatest names ever. Minnesota Fats was born on this day in 1913. He died in 1996. Born on this day in 1932, Pro Football Hall of Fame linebacker for the Detroit Lions, 10-time Pro Bowler, 8-time first-team All-Pro, won the NFL championship in 53 and 57 with the Lions. Yep, the Lions used to win championships in the 1950s. And he was the Lions head coach from 67 to 72. Joe Schmidt was born on this day in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Born on this day in 1944, this dude should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Dan Reeves, former Dallas Cowboy, NFL head coach with the Falcons, the Broncos, and the Giants. Dan Reeves passed away on January 1st, 18 days ago, and 18 days before his 78th birthday. Happy birthday in heaven, Dan Reeves. We got another happy birthday in heaven for a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Born on this day in 1969, Junior Seau. Junior Seau, first-team All-Pro, NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1992 with the San Diego Chargers. He was a USC Trojan. Sadly, Junior Seau took his own life in 2012. Shannon, do you know what ball carriers would say when Junior Seau hit them on the football field?
Ouch.
They would say, ow.
Yeah.
Junior Seau. That's like a dad joke. That's awful.
Okay.
I know. I had to
sorry.
go there. Seau. Thank you. Junior Seau. Thank you very much. On that note, it's time. Thank God. God help us. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, here it is, your midweek salty shakedown.
Chris, with a job like this and the lifestyle that comes with it, it is very important that I get my daily nap in. Even on the weekends, I tend to stick with the routine. And usually, the way I have my days, thanks to COVID, I'm not in the studio all day. I typically go home after the show. So I kind of split my days up, and I do some work after I get up from a nap. And the first thing I do is start, going through stories that I may have missed whilst asleep. And to my surprise yesterday, I wake up and I see this trending story on TMZ. Now, typically when you see a TMZ story, you think, uh-oh, someone's in trouble. So imagine my surprise when it's a TMZ story featuring the Spurs Coyote. A guy lots of us know and love, even though those green eyes are very, very terrifying. But Chris, I have to think that this incident occurred because he listens to our show. I've seen him wear headphones, so I know he's got some. And I'm sure he listens on the iHeartRadio app and even picks us up on the podcast when he isn't available to catch us live. But I think he heard us last week in discussing Devin Booker when he was playing against the Toronto Raptors with his Phoenix Suns. He was at the free throw line, and he had to ask the referee to remove the Raptor mascot, shoo him over to the tunnel because he was distracting him from free throws. He still made those free throws, but he was being a distraction. Well, last week at the Pacers game, the Pacers got one of those blown-up dinosaur outfits that you see people run around the streets in. They had one of those running around while they were playing the Suns last Friday. And so the other night when the Spurs were taking on the Suns, Spurs Coyote decided that he would get in on the fun. So during Devin Booker's free throws, he wore a cone of silence. It was a clear cone so he could still see. On it was plastered with words like quiet zone. Shh. He even held up like the golf signs that say quiet on them. But I think it's interesting because he was trying to help Devin. He was doing all he could to get the Spurs fans to be quiet. But I kind of hoped and wished that he'd go the opposite way and continue with the shenanigans of being disruptive. Devin did sink those shots, so I guess he has to thank the Coyote for that. And he did laugh it off because he gets it now. He's in on the joke, and so I commend him for that. But Spurs Coyote ending up in TMZ. Do you like that he went with this tactic, or do you think he could have gone bigger and bolder?
I agree with you. He could have gone bigger and bolder, although it was creative. It was like, oh, dude. It was certainly mockery. It's like, oh, man, we got to really walk on eggshells with you. We got to be quiet. We got to have our cone of silence. So rightfully mocking Devin Booker for being a little weasel because he was being distracted by a mascot. So, but yeah, I think he could have gone bigger and bolder and really made a statement. And you know what? Mascots across the league should, in solidarity, whenever Devin Booker is at the free throw line, go crazy and even get thrown out. It was like, dude, if you're going to be a little whiner, then we're going to bring it. So maybe they should bigger and bolder. I'm with you, though, on that.
I agree. You hear that, Coyote? Bigger, bolder, better for Booker.
Woo!
That's all we're asking for.
Woo! Perfect.
All right. Keeping it within Texas, we're going to talk some Astros, not just, well, for one thing, Carlos Correa signing with a top-of-the-line agent earlier this week by the name of Scott Boras. Scott Boras, most known probably for the recent contracts he's done. Max Scherzer, a 3-year deal worth $130 million, and Corey Seager, 10-year, $325 million. Of course, we know Carlos Correa wasn't pleased with the offer that he got from the Astros, so it's looking like he'll head elsewhere. But we're going to talk about the Astros AAA team. Of course, for a while, they were with the local Round Rock Express just up the road on I-35, a team we know and love very well. But they went back to a team a little bit closer to home, a team that was an independent at the time. They went with the Sugarland Skeeters last year, but they've decided that name was going to be one and done. Because come January 29th, they will have an official launch party for their new name, their new logo. It'll include players, Astros, prospects that'll be there. Lots of fun things for the family to enjoy when they make the announcement. But here's the thing, Chris. We live in the social age, and a lot of people have already figured out what the new name is going to be, and they've seen the new logo. Do you have any guesses or ideas of what the Sugarland Skeeters new name should be? I'm assuming you don't already know it.
I do not already know it, but I must tell you, I do like what, the Austin Spurs used to be the Austin Toros. And it's like, hey, man, we're part of the Spurs. I do like that the Austin Spurs are the Austin Spurs. Without knowing, I'll take the wild guess, and I would like Sugarland Astros. What do you got? Okay, well, that's not it. But I do like your train of thought there. It is going to be the Sugarland Space Cowboys. And the logo is pretty cool. It's like a futuristic astronaut helmet. On top, it's got a cowboy hat, and then it's got a little bandana. I think it's pretty cool. I kind of want a shirt now. It's not officially official until January 29th, but that's what they're going with. I, of course, as an NSYNC fan, there's a song called Space Cowboy. If they do not play that as part of an intro or something at some point during their tenure as the Space Cowboys, they are missing out on a grand musical opportunity. But I think it's pretty cool. Can I just jump in on, before NSYNC, there was a band called the Steve Miller Band. Yeah. And Space Cowboy was a huge hit for the Steve Miller Band in 1969. I'm just saying there was options. A music. It's great. Before NSYNC, there was some music like in the 60s, and Space Cowboy by the Steve. Now, and again, I want everybody to be happy. Play Space Cowboy by NSYNC. Yes. Keep Shannon happy. Yes, keep old men like me happy. Play Space Cowboy by the Steve. Play both. Now, cool. Obviously, you and I are still waiting patiently, as well as the rest of football fans across America, for what the Washington football team name change will be. But I think it's going to be hard to beat. Sugarland Space Cowboys. I think that one's pretty cool, and I think a lot of people will probably be disappointed with whatever Washington comes up with, because that's just what we're used to at this point. But do you like the Space Cowboy thing? I do, and it's better than my idea. Just name them the Sugarland Astros. Agree with you. You can get a whole lot more creative with, and again, you're keeping astronauts,
In space, yes.
Manned Spacecraft Center, space and Cowboys. Yep, I'm in. I dig it. I want the T-shirt. I want the jersey. I want the hat, and I want to hear both songs, NSYNC and Steve Miller Band.
There it is. So be on the lookout for that again. That'll become official January 29th. Finally today, Chris, we come back to the basketball world. We started the show with some basketball. We're going to end the Salty Shakedown with some basketball today. Florida State took on Duke at home. Of course, as we all remember, it's Coach K's final season as the head coach of Duke, and they've had a rough go, especially on the road this year, and they have another loss added to their tally after playing the Seminoles last night. It went into overtime, and the Seminoles up until that point had won 12 straight in overtime games, and Chris, they did it again. They end up beating Duke 79-78, but I think the bigger story to come from that game is the banner that a lot of people noticed hanging in the arena. I'd go to say that this one is more embarrassing than the banner hanging in Frank Irwin currently of the 2019 NIT championship that the men's basketball team won. Okay, inside Florida State's banner, on one side you have an NCAA Sweet 16 2019 banner. That's not crazy. A lot of places do that, and that's an accomplishment within of itself. But next to it, there's another banner that says NCAA canceled, and then underneath, number 4 final ranking 2020. They created a banner for the 2020 season that was canceled just before the conference tournaments were set to begin. Florida State ranked number 4 at the time. That ranking could have changed based on the conference, the conference tournament, based on wherever their seeding was going to be in the NCAA tournament. And they went ahead and they were like, you know what? We deserve a banner for being number 4 in the country at the time of the cancellation. What? Who thought that was a good idea? Not me. I think it's stupid. Chris,
Yeah.
are you hanging that banner? Are you gonna say, where can I get me one of those for my living room? Where's the T-shirt?
No, but again, and what irony though? You're taking on Coach K and Duke. I'm sure Duke doesn't hang up number 4 canceled season banners. I mean, it's a Florida. Obviously, if you're Florida State, you don't have nearly as much gravitas in the men's college basketball world as Duke. But yeah, that is funky.
Yeah,
that is funky and weird. Yeah,
that's the definition of taking what you can get, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's okay. Maybe they'll win another banner and they can maybe replace it, or you should replace it, or you should just pull it down at this point. It's embarrassing enough for you to have that there, but there it is. Today's Salty Shakedown.
Excellent Salty Shakedown as always. Again, I love that you bring some news that I didn't know, that the Sugarland Skeeters are now becoming the Sugarland Space Cowboys, and I do. I want a baseball cap. I want the T-shirt. That's going to be cool. So, and I know we're up against it, but yeah, a number 4 are canceled COVID season, but we were number 4 before COVID canceled our season. I wonder if there's a big. I wonder if they have like the COVID spore, the little green COVID cartoonish logo that people use.
If number 1 through 3 didn't do
virus.
it, 4 certainly should not be doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm saying.
We're number 4. We're number 4. We're number 4. Better than the Cowboys. Cowboys didn't even make the top 8 in the NFL. All right. Not that I'm bitter. Okay, I'm bitter. Quick break. A man who's never bitter. Just like the best cup of coffee in the morning, that first sip. That's Bill Schoening. Just warms you up and makes you feel good. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, joins us next. It's the Chris Duel Show. And actually, Robert, I am all about UCF declaring themselves national champions. They won all the games in front of them. The playoff system is a joke. Every other sport in college athletics has a tournament. If you have a great season and you're undefeated, you get a chance to play for a championship. So, and Shannon disagrees with me on this, but I am for UCF doing that. If UTSA would have gone undefeated, I would have called for championship rings for all the UTSA players and staff and volunteer to take on Georgia anywhere, anytime, but it didn't happen. So, all right, I got one more spot that I have to edit. Goes a little something like this. There it is. And they even rejected an expansion to 6 or 8 for the next 2 years. You know, they had a meeting a few days ago, the NCAA. So we're stuck with this for another couple of years when they could have gone to 6 or 8. And part of it is all of these bowls that make so much money, they don't want to give it up, which is ridiculous because you can still, it's college football, you can still generate a lot of money during these playoff games and have them at the sites of the bowls. Okay, there's that. I did that. Yeah, Marcus Valdespino, I'm with you. You should make all the banners you want if you go undefeated, and everybody should get an undefeated ring, and I would call it a championship ring. You beat, especially in Division I college football, but and I say Division I, in the other divisions, you have a tournament and a champion is determined. So, you play the teams on your schedule and you beat them all. Yes. Go get your championship ring. Put up your championship banners. Absolutely. All right. We get ice. I'm transitioning from coffee to iced tea. Back in a sec. Yeah, James, There will be some blowouts, but some seasons, as you see in every other sport, there will be teams that break through. So I at the very least, I believe strongly teams that win their conference in the Power 5 conferences, plus if a team goes undefeated, if you have an 8-team playoff, you can have every Power 5 conference champion in. You can have 1 or 2 undefeated teams. We were like down to like 1 this year. No, none by the end because Georgia lost. And UTSA lost. They were down to 2 at one point. And I know you need multiple SEC teams in. So cheers, I'm here real quick. Let's see. I don't think the Spurs have made it official yet. Shoot around injury report. Now there's the newest partner. So they did do that. Okay, so I got that. Now what I want to do is Jeremy is calling Mr. Bill Schoening.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, side. We're going to the other side, yeah.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is Wednesday. There is so much going on in the world of sports as we reach midweek, Wednesday, January 19th, and we are on the eve of Freeze-mageddon 2022. 32 degrees for a low tomorrow morning in Austin. 28 degrees forecast for a low tomorrow morning in San Antonio. But tonight in San Antonio, the San Antonio Spurs in action against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the man with the call, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, the one, the only, Bill Schoening. Bill, how are you doing on this game day / game night?
Very good, very good. Rocking and rolling. That's exactly the way we're going to do it tonight, too. So rock and roll tonight, Chris.
Very cool. We love our rock and roll.
And some bass. Yeah, I think about bringing some instruments in tonight. Little drums and bass, kind of a stand-up bass, kind of an old country kind of thing. I don't know. Well, we're just going to kind of jazz it up tonight. Jazz. Since we're talking about bass, we'll do some jazz.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll just make this a melody tonight.
And a lot of people, a lot of our listeners know, but if anybody's new to the show, you, sir, have a musical background. You not only appreciate great music and great jazz, and whenever you're in New Orleans, we get a full report from you as well, but you are a singer-songwriter, and you do spend a lot of time in Austin, Texas, outside of Nashville, probably the music capital of the American South.
Oh, no. Do not say outside of Nashville. Austin, Texas is the live music capital.
Thank you.
Not Nashville, Tennessee.
See, you got me.
A friend of mine, in fact, a friend of mine from Philadelphia just visited Austin for the first time and was very impressed. And I said, well, how does it compare to Nashville? And he said, well, there was a lot more twang in Nashville and a lot more R&B and soul and the kind of stuff he likes. He went to Antone's, which is a blues club on 5th Street. And so you get, in my opinion, and nothing against my folks in Nashville, because I like country music and I like Americana. I like all that stuff. But I think you get a little bit more of an eclectic mix in Austin. So if you're going to go listen to some live music, I would recommend Austin before Nashville. That's just me.
Hey man, I am with you, and I totally agree. And I've been in Nashville a couple of times. Not, I can't make a well-informed opinion or review on Nashville music. It's an amazing place, obviously, but
it is. And it's grown so much, Chris, Nashville. I was in Nashville for an NCAA tournament in 92 and had not gone back until just a couple of years ago. And I couldn't believe the growth of it. And it was a cool scene, cool vibe. Yeah, I dug Nashville a lot. But when it comes to, music that's got, wide-reaching impact, I would go with Austin. San Antonio's got a nice little scene, too, going on. So, let's not forget San Antonio, because I went and heard some great jazz at a place called, I think it's called Jazz Texas or Texas Jazz.
Yes.
Down in the Pearl District.
Yes.
Have you been there?
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah. It's hard to get in there.
It is.
It's for its size. They pack, pre-COVID at least, it's hard to get in because there's so many people, and it is a great jazz venue in the Pearl. I agree.
Yeah, my son Carl took me there for my birthday, which was in November, and it was a really cool place, and the music was great, and it was jazz, and it was awesome. So there's a lot of different cool spots there in San Antonio too. So our little stretch right here, and even you go a little bit north of San Antonio, go to Green, and that New Braunfels Green scene's going on there too. So there's a lot of good music here in this part of the world.
I'm all about the vibes right now that Bill Schoening is giving off, talking about
the
Austin and surrounding music scenes.
I woke up in a musical mood. I don't know what it is, Shannon. I woke up with tunes in my head, and I just felt like grabbing my guitar. I haven't done it, thank God. I don't want to subject you guys to that, but it just I don't know. It's a good day to be in Texas.
Well, hopefully that'll transfer over to the Spurs tonight, and there can be some great tunes playing throughout AT&T Center as they take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, Oklahoma City, a worse record than San Antonio. San Antonio currently 16-28. Oklahoma City 14-29. What is something that the Spurs need to not overlook about Oklahoma City? Because obviously they had Houston in town. Houston also not playing very well this season. I think it was maybe easy for the Spurs to say, listen, this is the worst team in the West. We should be able to get this one done. This should be a get-right game, and it did not go as planned. Now with Oklahoma City in town, what do they need to do to get this win tonight?
Well, I think that all along the Spurs have been talking about focusing on themselves, not worrying too much about the opponent. Pop at one point said, hey, the last time I looked, we're not in first place in the Western Conference. We've got our own issues, so we're not really too concerned about the opponent. We got to worry about our own stuff. So I think that when you look at that, it doesn't matter who's coming in, whether it's Oklahoma City or one of the top teams in the Western Conference, like the Phoenix Suns from the other night. They just got to go out and play their game, and that includes, playing tough defense, rebounding, and paying attention to detail. One of the things I think that has happened on occasion with the Spurs team is that they have made mistakes at critical times. They had 5 turnovers, for instance, in the fourth quarter the other night. They were right in that game with Phoenix, and then they had the 5 turnovers, and Phoenix did a great job of turning those turnovers into points. I think the final total was 23-4 in points off turnovers. You're not going to win many games if you commit turnovers in critical times and then give up the points at the other end. So that's one of the things they've got to really focus on, I think, taking better care of the basketball and hitting shots at good times. They went through a cold stretch in that game as well. It was a 17-4 run during that period of time, midway through the fourth quarter, and it really flipped the game. It was our Frostbank game changer that night. So one of the things that Pop has talked about, too, is playing more consistently for 48 minutes and not having these little lulls, these little stretches where an opposing team goes on a 10-0 or a 12-2 run and can flip the game. So now that's one of those things that young teams have to learn is playing a full 48 minutes, not turning the ball over. And this team has done a pretty good job of not turning the ball over, but that happened the other night. So they've just got to be a little bit more consistent. Now they're getting their guys back. I think they've been in a situation where they've had a lot of guys in and out. And, sometimes guys are available. You don't know until game time if they're going to be able to play. I think once they get more consistent as far as their roster is concerned and the availability of players, that'll be a little bit easier for them to work together and eliminate some of these mistakes.
He's the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. And Bill, the Spurs in the news a lot this week and in the last 24 hours. The Coyote makes TMZ for his mockery of Devin Booker. We can get into that. I will ask you, or Shannon will in a moment, and the Spurs did make it official about a new investor coming on board with the Spurs. The investor group of the Spurs ownership group becoming even more amazing and more diversified. But our listeners as well waking up this morning, and I know the Spurs did not make it official, so it's not official till the Spurs make it official. You have taught me that over the years, but I just wanted to see what you would say, if anything, about an Adrian Wojnarowski report that broke overnight at about 11:15 last night, talking about a 3-way trade between the Spurs and the Celtics and the Denver Nuggets. Again, not official, not Spurs official yet. But how do you regard a story like that, Bill, before the Spurs put out a release and make it official on their end?
Well, if it's a Woj bomb, I can't remember too many Adrian Wojnarowski tweets that have not been accurate. I mean, he's pretty accurate when he comes up with a report. More times than not, that thing happens. So, I know you're talking about the proposed trade of Bryn Forbes to Denver, and in the reports that we've read, the Spurs will get Juancho Hernan-Gomez. Since I work for the Spurs, I can't really comment too much until it is official, but it does seem to indicate that the Spurs are willing partners right now at this point in the season to listen to trade offers, to maybe make some deals, to try to improve the roster. Again, the Spurs are looking for the future, so I think that they're trying to maybe acquire some assets for the future, and that would make sense, that they would be active at this time of the year and maybe, pick up some future trade picks or maybe another young player. We'll see what happens. But I think it is indicative, Chris and Shannon, of the fact that the Spurs may very well be active during this period in terms of trying to improve their roster with a solid look to the future for sure.
Well, Bill, Chris mentioned it. Co-founder of Airbnb, Joe Gebbia, joins the Spurs minority ownership. And part of this for me, it seems like it's kind of making the brand a little sexier, right? You've got all these big names attached to it. Guys like Kevin Durant have been very open about wanting to be involved in the tech world, right? That's where a lot of money is. A lot of guys get into this league, yes, because they love the game, but it's a pretty nice paycheck that comes along with it, especially if you can get deals done outside of basketball. And having a guy like that, not to mention Michael Dell as well, I think makes this brand of the San Antonio Spurs that much bigger. What do you see it like that at all, or do you think this is just a guy who wants to be a part of an organization? And I don't know how much he's willing to put his face and name out there to try and maybe persuade some bigger name guys to call San Antonio home. But that's my take on it.
Yeah, well, I saw that he was the CEO of Airbnb, and my first thought, Shannon, was, hey, maybe I can get a free room somewhere, like up in the mountains, can we get a house out of this deal for a few days, like up in Estes Park, Colorado, or someplace? That's the last time I went to an Airbnb. It was beautiful, and it's been a very successful company. It has. A lot of people are doing that now instead of going to hotels. They're doing the Airbnb thing, which I think is pretty cool. I don't know much about Joe. I read the press release as well. He sounds like a really good guy. He sounds like a philanthropist who's really put a lot of money back into the communities where he's been. And I think that's a really good sign. The Spurs continue to try to really invest in the community. And I think that that's part of this whole thing here. And as you mentioned, maybe diversify the brand a little bit. They've got guys that are involved in different aspects of the world. You mentioned high tech, obviously. So let's bring it on and see what happens. But you got this young, vibrant team, and now an ownership group that's got some young up and comers as well. So I think that that's a very good sign for the Spurs.
Bill, speaking with the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. And Bill, Shannon and I pride ourselves on asking the tough questions and going there with just vital, important issues in the world of sports. So I do want to talk to you about the latest controversy involving the Spurs Coyote. As you know, Devin Booker, when he was at Toronto at the free throw line, was none too happy with the Toronto Raptor dinosaur mascot. Felt it was distracting him at the free throw line. So he talked to the official, tried to have it, and I guess did have it moved out of the way. So against the Phoenix Suns, apparently the Coyote had a kind of mocked him, had an old quiet zone, telling the fans to be very, very quiet. And with some
bubble wrap.
Yeah. So I once again, and apparently TMZ, Shannon tells me TMZ picked up on the Coyote. Once again, the Coyote, Bill, on top of things, very aware of what's going on around the league. And once again, I got to credit the Coyote for some very, very humorous mockery, in this case, of Devin Booker's desire not to be bothered by mascots when he's at the free throw line.
We talked about this last week because it had just happened. And I had not yet seen the video where Devin got upset and wanted the mascot moved. But again, that happened in a nearly empty building in Ontario, Canada, because they've got such tight restrictions up there in Canada. They're not letting anybody in the building except family and friends. So a crowd of, I think, 300 or 400 people were there at that game. And I think that it's much more noticeable to see a mascot and his antics when there's nobody else in the building, as compared to 18 or 20,000 people in a full arena. So rock on, Coyote, keep doing your thing. I think that it entertains the fans. I think most players are okay with it unless it goes over the line. And I guess on occasion that has happened. Not with a Coyote, of course. He would never do that. But I get the whole thing. I think that Devin Booker probably is laughing about it right now. Because when you do something like that, and obviously you're in the NBA, so you're on the front page of the sports section talking about the mascot bothering you. Well, you're going to take some ribbing. It's just part of sports. You know how it is when you play on a team, Chris, and it's true in athletics. If a buddy finds that you've got some kind of a weakness, they're going to exploit that weakness, and that's true if you're a teammate or if you're on the other team. It's just the way it goes in athletics. So I think that Devin is now going to continue to take some ribbing from maybe some other players on other teams and maybe some other mascots. We'll see what happens. Maybe the Coyote has now triggered something for the other mascots. Every time Devin goes to the free throw line, he's got to watch for the mascot on the other team if he's in the visiting building.
Well, Bill, the Chris Duel Show doesn't have a furry mascot to get the listeners hyped, but we do have giveaways, and we like to give away cash here on the Chris Duel Show and on Ticket 760 AM 1300 The Zone.
Cash.
Throughout the day, throughout the week, every hour you'll be listening for a keyword. We've got the 8 o'clock hours keyword right now. Here it is. Take a listen for the keyword.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Happy. That's happy. Enter it on our station website now.
Keyword is happy for the 8 o'clock hour. Remember, you can head to AM 1300 The Zone and Ticket 760 and double your chances to win there. All right, we've got a couple weeks left until the NBA takes a small break for the All-Star weekend. Haven't heard a lot about it going into it so far, but there have been votes coming up. Bill, off the top of your head, is there a guy, not necessarily on the Spurs, but anywhere in the league that you feel like definitely deserves to get a roster spot, but you're not hearing his name nearly enough to really get him one this year? Kind of like a DeMar DeRozan of last year.
Yeah, he is in the Spurs. DeJounte Murray. He's having an all-star year. It's unfortunate that the team is 12 games under 500, but you look at the accolades that he's getting from coaches and from players around the league, and if he was on a team that was 12 games over 500, it'd be a slam dunk. No pun intended. But I think that he is the type of guy that is having an all-star year. He is leading this team. He's doing a great job. He's doing everything that is asked of him. In leadership and all the other numbers that he's filling up. I mean, this guy weighs 180 pounds and he's averaging over 8 rebounds a game. That's tough to go in there and get 8 boards a game, and sometimes it gets more than that. And of course, he's distributing the ball very well. He is scoring when he needs to, and I'm really enjoying watching DeJounte Murray play. So I hope that maybe they give him consideration, to get on that team, because I think he deserves it.
Bill, shifting gears a little bit here, and you have talked to us over the years. Broadcasting is such a fraternity, and you've talked to us about Brad Sham, great broadcasters you've either worked with or crossed paths with over the years. Obviously, the Austin people know about your work with Craig Way, a great broadcaster that you're very familiar with, Ron Franklin. Who's done a lot of work across the great state of Texas over the years, passed away at the age of 79. I wanted to get your thoughts on the passing of broadcaster Ron Franklin.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, because Ron is a guy that I looked up to really my whole career. I first heard Ron when he was doing the Houston Oilers back in, I guess it would have been the early 80s. When I started listening to Ron quite a bit. I lived in Huntsville, Texas, which is just north of Houston, and I was the voice of Sam Houston State for about 6 years back in the 80s. That's where I first really started listening to Ron a lot, and I really enjoyed his work. Then he went to the University of Texas, and I remember while he was the voice of the Longhorns, right before he went to ESPN, I was at an AP convention in Dallas, and he was on the panel for play-by-play, and I happened to be there. And he said, whether you're doing a small college game or a junior college game or a high school game or the NFL, whatever it happens to be, make sure that you really put the work in and dedicate yourself to that game. That game is the most important game you're ever going to broadcast until the next one. So put everything into that one. And that really kind of resonated with me, because I think I was doing Sam Houston State versus East Texas State the next night. So I tried to make sure that Sam Houston State versus East Texas State game was the best I could do. He inspired me. I got to know Ron very well in my years in Austin doing the Longhorns. He would be a guest on my talk show, and he was always pleasant, always gracious, and always a pleasant listen. And I got to know him, like I said, pretty well, and had a chance to break bread with him a few times, and really a wonderful guy. It's a shame. He made a mistake there late in his career where he got let go by ESPN by saying improper things. And of course, we've learned through the years that you just can't do that sort of thing. So it's a shame that kind of tarnished his legacy a little bit. But I hope that people today, if they think about Ron Franklin, they'll remember his fine work with ESPN. He was the main college basketball and football guy for ESPN for a number of years up until 2011. And I've got fond memories of my time with Ron, and certainly one of the great broadcasters in the last 30 years in the state of Texas.
And Bill, isn't that one of the cool things about working in this business? You mentioned listening to Ron Franklin doing Houston Oilers games, and then you get to meet him, and you mentioned being at Sam Houston State when he gave out those words of wisdom that could certainly benefit you as a broadcaster, and then you get the opportunity to break bread with him and get to know him. I've had those circumstances as well. I'm sure Shannon has as well, where somebody either in the sports world, maybe an athlete, maybe a broadcaster, you've known them or appreciated their work before you got into broadcasting, or maybe early in your broadcasting career, and then you get to know them and become one of their colleagues, and in your case, one of their peers. It's just really nice to get to know people, especially when you admire their work, and especially when they can impart something to you that even elevates how you do what you do.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Chris, and it's part of the beauty of this business. I was brought to WOAI in San Antonio by a guy named Andrew Ashwood, who was known as the Gorilla. Now, he was a behind-the-scenes guy. He was a program director, but he had a huge impact around the entire country. He knew everybody. And one of the things that Andrew did was connect people. And he knew that I would love to meet Brent Musburger. He knew Brent Musburger. So in 2003, when the Spurs were playing the Mavericks in a Western Conference playoff series, he brought Brent Musburger over to meet me. And Brent and I hit it off great. I mean, we just had a nice conversation. But that's one of the things that Andrew used to do. He used to connect people. And I really enjoyed that about him. Andrew, unfortunately, passed away from cancer in 2008. But what an impact he had. And then just different people that you meet along the way, you don't know if you're going to work with them in the future. I'll give you an example. Keith Moreland was a Major League Baseball player for 12 years. And when I was been a Phillies fan my whole life, but in 1980, when the Phillies won the World Series, Keith was a very important player off the bench. He was a utility player, could play different positions, pinch hitter. And I always liked the guy, hard hitter. He played at the University of Texas. Well, a few years later, after he retires, he wants to go into the broadcast booth. I bring him into the booth. We became broadcast partners for 6 or 7 years, and now he's one of my best friends. And you just never know, who you're going to meet down the line that's going to have an impact on you. And Ron Franklin was never a great friend, but he was a colleague and a guy that I respected a great deal, and a guy that I learned from. And it's a sad day today, because I think that a lot of us that respect play-by-play guys like Ron Franklin understand that's kind of a certain era too, right? I mean, it's like a turning of the page because Ron was so good for so long. And, now there's a new wave of broadcasters coming up, but certainly a tip of the cap today to Ron Franklin, who was a very, very solid broadcaster.
And Bill, as you mentioned, Andrew Ashwood, the Gorilla, he's the guy who hired me into radio. I'm not here this morning talking to you without Andrew Ashwood, and you and I, one of Andrew's big things when he was the operations manager at WOAI on all Spurs playoff road trips back in the day, he made sure the whole broadcast crew went. Charlie Parker, me, you on the, obviously you're there as Spurs radio, but I mean, every round with Andrew Ashwood, Andrew would go, we'd all go, and to this day, and you talk about Ron Franklin and things you learned. I hear things Andrew taught me that broadcast by broadcast echo in my head, 20 years later. It's amazing the influence some of these guys can have on you, on your life, on your career.
Absolutely. Andrew had a catchphrase. It was "Dare to be great."
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think there might be in the WOAI building, there might be a "Dare to be great" corner. At least there used to be in the old building.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded of that from time to time because, you do these broadcasts and it's almost by rote sometimes, you're just used to doing it. But every once in a while I hear that whisper, dare to be great. So, make sure you put the work in to rise above just the melancholy or the mediocre or the average, just be a little bit more than that. So, those words from Andrew, who died almost 14 years ago now, still echo on my mind.
Amen. And you do that every single broadcast, and he'll do that again tonight. Bill Schoening, voice of the San Antonio Spurs, will have the broadcast tonight just after 7:30 is tip-off. But pregame, Spurs Radio Game Night with Bill, originating out of 1200 WOAI and across the Spurs Radio Network beginning at 7 o'clock tonight. Bill, outstanding as always, sir. We will see you on the radio tonight.
Thanks, Chris. Good to be with you guys.
Absolutely. Bill Schoening, voice of the San Antonio Spurs. Coming up, today is a very special day, and we'll tell you why. If there's it has to do with a food, and we'll dive into more sports and maybe let off some more steam and cry about the Dallas Cowboys. And I may curl up into the fetal position in the corner of the studio and swear uncontrollably. It could still happen. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy KOLAK making the show go with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Little Stevie Ray Vaughan on the way out. Jeremy, excellent. All right, let me see what else is happening here. Okay, let me see here. I did that. Back in a sec. Woo! Take that, toss that, take that. Woo! All right. Hello, Ralph Balderas. Yeah, we had a problem earlier. Facebook bumped us off because of a music rights violation, which is ridiculous because we're a radio station. We have ASCAP and BMI licenses that we pay for to play music, but apparently some music went out over these speakers. Got to write Bill a quick note. Yeah, I don't. The engineers, John, it's technical, but they're supposed to have this set up such that the music doesn't go out to the live feed, but something went wrong, and I didn't realize Jonas and the Sports Grind had the problem as well. Oh, well. You do your best. Let's see here. Okay, I got that. I got that. I got that. Where did I put? Here we come.
Back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Wednesday. It is Freeze-Mageddon Eve. Tomorrow at this time, I'll be whining and complaining about the cold. I'll try to keep it to a minimum. I'm not built for the cold. I live in South Texas for a reason. I like it warm. I like it sunny. I need a pool, preferably an adult beverage or 6, and I'm good. Get me to the month of March, because usually the cold weather's over by then. Once we make it through February, we'll be good. It is January 19th. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney and Jeremy KOLAK, the pride of Oklahoma State University. And Jeremy, I don't know if it's true that you're the personal cabana boy for Mike Gundy's wife. I don't even know who Mike Gundy's wife is. I know nothing. I'll have to Google her. I know, but have you been to the Gundy house, and are you the cabana boy? Do you pass out towels and bring drinks with umbrellas in them for Mike Gundy's wife as she tans?
No, the Gundy house is kind of like a compound, and they've built like a berm on the. So I know people know where it is,
like the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, sort of.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
He's kind of a David Koresh of college football.
He really is.
Similar hair,
at least in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and North Central Oklahoma. But I've met Mrs. Gundy.
See, okay, so there's a connection
but
there.
Not at the house. She came to she started coming to his pressers, like his weekly press luncheon with the media and whatnot.
Okay.
So I don't know if there was something she was keeping him in check. Maybe he said something that she didn't like, so then she started showing up. But I noticed that I covered the football team for 2 years, and about halfway through my first year, which would have been 2018, she started showing up at the press conferences and just standing off to the side.
Wow.
And he started bringing his dog at some point too, so maybe that was connected. And
I bring my wife and my dog to the press conferences.
It's hard for media members to critique you when your labradoodle is, you know, rubbing up on everybody. It was a weird dynamic for sure.
So when you met Mrs. Gundy, did she offer the cabana boy position to you?
No,
at the compound.
No, I don't.
Okay.
That was just already served. Yeah. Well, or I'm not supposed to speak about it.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, Jeremy and Shannon, a couple of things, and I'm building to the third. And Shannon, I know that you know about the third, but today is New Friends Day. You're supposed to make new friends today. But there's a pandemic, Shannon. I don't need any new friends. I don't want to meet anybody new, and I'm not even, I don't do 6 feet anymore. I do 20 feet. Stay 20 feet away from me. I don't want to breathe your air. So I'm going to skip on New Friends Day. I mean, I don't want to be antisocial, but talk to me after the pandemic. Today is Good Memory Day. It's a day to sharpen your memory. I could probably use that. So, all right, Good Memory Day. And finally, Shannon, I know you know, and Jeremy, if you don't know, now you know, today is National Popcorn Day. Shannon, are you a fan of popcorn? And if so, buttered or not?
Buttered for sure. I've got a love-hate relationship with the popcorn. I mean, I have like a permanent retainer. I guess I have weird teeth because I never eat popcorn and not get something like a kernel stuck somewhere. And then I had braces forever, and I had some other dental stuff. So I feel like a good quarter of my life I wasn't supposed to or allowed to eat popcorn. But I love to watch movies, and I love to go to the movies, and I'm not like every time I go to the movie I gotta get a popcorn, but movies are getting longer, so I feel it's sometimes essential to grab me some popcorn, whether it be at home or at the movies.
I dig popcorn. I'm with you, but it always gets stuck in my teeth as well. Jeremy, are you a popcorn guy?
Well, like Shannon said, at the movies, they're kind of a staple. Maybe not every time, but it's like the smell. But actually, kind of a touchy subject, because the last time I had there was popcorn made for the Dallas Cowboys playoff game. I thought it was going to be a big event that I was going to be watching and whatnot, So that, I think I'll be avoiding popcorn for a little while.
So sorry.
Now, I don't know if this is official.
Yeah.
Jason Paniagua on our live feed. Santikos is a big theater chain in San Antonio. He says, and I'm not saying this is official because I'm getting, I haven't checked this with the Santikos family, but he says today on National Popcorn Day, you can get a free large popcorn at Santikos theaters. That would be a good promotion if you're a theater chain on a Wednesday on National Popcorn Day. It's like, hey man, come see a movie. Wear your damn mask, and you can get free popcorn, free large popcorn. That's it. I'm down with that.
And that's like where theaters make their money these days, right? Because a large popcorn is what, $15? They're like, yeah, and if you finish this trough, you can have a free refill.
Yeah, my God, just the prices at a theater, and again, the older you get, and I'm not proud. And I post-pandemic, I haven't been to a lot of theaters at all. I don't think I've been to a single theater since the pandemic. But my wife and I, Shannon, we're not proud. We sneak stuff in. We sneak in beverages. We sneak in our own damn food.
That's what purses are for.
We don't want to pay $38 for concessions. We'll sneak that stuff in, man.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever snuck into a theater?
But I must say, I must say, and this did not used to be the case as an adult now, and it's been the case for 10 or 15 years. It used to be, they did not used to have alcoholic beverages at theaters.
Mm-hmm.
When they started doing that, I was like, thank you, Lord. Yes. Thank you, sir. I'll have another. I'll come.
So
line me up some beers.
Now that because like I've done, like you sneak in your own popcorn, you sneak in your own soda. Now that they sell alcohol, are we sneaking that in? Are we doing that?
If you want to save some money, I don't want to out her on radio, but my wife, I think once or twice has gotten like an Ozarka plastic water bottle, and you empty that sucker out, and she likes to drink Chardonnay. So you pour you fill up that Ozarka bottle with Chardonnay, put it in her purse, and if you get busted, you go, oh, that's my water bottle.
Like a high school kid going to a football game. That's not vodka.
Yes. Woo, yeah. That's water. That's Ozarka. Don't you see the Ozarka label? Come on. Diving back into sports for a moment, you mentioned this, and again, it kind of bums me out when you were talking about the Astros and the Sugarland Space Cowboys. You mentioned it in passing, but just to underscore, Carlos Correa, who the Astros should pay him whatever he wants. He has hired Scott Boras as his agent, and Shannon, Scott Boras, known for getting money for his clients.
Yeah, he's been attached to some really big names, and most recently, Max Scherzer, 3 years, $130 million. I think that comes out to like $43 million a year. And Corey Seager with the Rangers, 10-year, $325 million deal. That's probably something a little closer to what Carlos Correa at his age and at his level is looking for, just long term. Obviously a little bit less per year than a Max Scherzer, but he's definitely worth the big price tag. It'll be interesting to see with the current lockout what comes of it, right? Because he didn't get a deal done beforehand. He declined the Astros offer at the time. I'd love for him to stay. I'd love nothing more for him to stay. I wish they had locked him down sooner. But now he's worth that much more in millions, and there are plenty of teams out there that are going to be willing to pay for him.
Yeah, he's such a leader you think of Bregman. I love Altuve. You can never let Altuve go. You let Springer get away. God, I wish they'd keep Correa. I wish just pay the man his money. And I know we're up against it, Shannon, but I know you have it in your notes for the show, and it's going to be an interesting story as the Olympics are getting closer, the Winter Olympics, and kind of with the pandemic, a new world order, of course, once again for Olympic athletes participating in those Olympic Games.
Yeah, and this can get political really quickly. I think the idea of having an app for athletes and participants on your phone, as far as health and safety concerns go, is a great idea. But if we recall, the Olympics that are coming up very quickly are in China. They are requiring that athletes who bring their personal devices put this on their phone 2 weeks ahead of time. And then there's some security risks that a lot of other countries are thinking that will come about because of this app that you have to have on your phone if you're going to be part of the Olympics. So I think some countries, I think the United States maybe even included, are telling athletes don't take your personal phones. There may be some, almost like a work phone provided to them, because I think, again, the app itself and what it's trying to do as far as health and safety is concerned is a great idea. And I'm sure if you're in the village, I mean, those villages are almost like a theme park on its own, right? Where are things? When is dinner served? I think the idea is great, but execution and it being in China is certainly causing some concern for some.
And that's such a great point. The Chinese, and of course the Chinese government, almost certainly involved putting an app on the phones of international athletes who would then, after the Olympics, go back to their home countries with these apps on their phones from China. quite a sample size of international populations. Yeah, that's troubling, to say the least. Wow. We'll keep an eye on that story. Can't believe we got another Olympiad coming very, very soon, the Winter Olympics, which will help once football's done.
Yep.
We're going to be jonesing for some kind of sport, so I'll take it. Shannon, outstanding as always.
Thank you, sir.
What are your final day before it gets really, really cold? What are you going to do today to enjoy your final day of non-freezing temperatures?
I've got plans to go play trivia tonight. So wish me luck, because it either goes one way or the other. It's never middle of the road. I always feel like I'm smart, or wow, I should read a book.
Jeremy, great job as always, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'll be back tomorrow.
Good. Now I know.
Now you know for once.
I'll know who to send emails to overnight. Our thanks to Shannon. Our thanks to Jeremy. Our thanks to the great Bill Schoening. Bill will have the call tonight. Spurs host the Oklahoma City Thunder. Pregame at 7 on 1200 WOAI and across the Spurs radio network. Enjoy the weather before it gets real cold overnight. Have yourself a great Wednesday. See you tomorrow. Adios. Later, y'all. Adios.